Hello there, how are you? Welcome back to How I Did It. Today's video is the assembly of an arrow ezeeshed, and we'll show you how I did it. The first thing that I did was laid out all of my parts. It was amazing at how many of these panels came in with damage. So the first thing I did once I got everything laid out was, as you can see, got them all bent back into shape to where you could snap them in place. My personal opinion on it is, yeah, it went together, but don't buy the ezeeshed, just buy the regular shed. You'll get the proper screws that you need. This pushing it down, first you have to have a totally flat surface to work on. Here I'm just pushing it and crimping it in place. With the regular sheds, the screws go in and it just holds it. One person can build it, even though it calls for two. The other thing is the arrow has to be up on this, and then on the top of where all the arrows are, you'll have the white trim running around to hold these in place, and on the base will be the silver trim. So here I'm just finishing up, putting the corners on, putting these little tiny screws. I'm talking, it may have been easy to snap it together, but I ended up having to go back in and reinforce it with actual real self-tapping screws. Here I'm just assembling the track, and the way that they show you to put the track on by clipping it on, if you buy one of these you'll see the directions. It's much easier just to slide it, and once I finish putting this last screw in, you'll see what I'm talking about. So right here, once I finish doing all the lower and upper tracks, if you just slide them through, it's much easier to get them to seat in the little slits that you see there to hold it. They show you to push it on from the bottom, and I tried pushing it. It was such a pain in the butt. You would definitely have to have two people to do it. So here you put these clips into the corner, so make sure each one will have a clip. Don't double your clips up. I had to pull some of the clips out where I had put them in one clip on one side, and the same corresponding side I put the clip. Now here I'm just setting the walls in place. Now I did put up my $49 Harbor Freight canopy over the top, so it is holding it in place, and the wind was minimal that day. Again, I did this entire shed with just myself. Well, with myself and my girl Stella there, my little helper. She's such a sweetheart. Again, everything pretty much clips together, and the little screws that they give you to hold it, it's not gonna stand up to much force of wind. So I ended up going with number 8 half-inch self-tapping metal screws, and there will be a picture of them later on, or I should say a video, a very shaky video, because I sped up the assembly of this. Overall, this thing took me about 2.5 days, just because of rain and whatnot that we were faced with here. So this is the next morning, beautiful sunrise coming up. Wanted to get out there before it got too hot. Had my burnable trash going. I had gone around last night before I finished up and set a bunch of the sheet metal screws in, and you can see the little card or plastic container there that I had of them. This here is just assembly of the main roof beam or ceiling beam that the roof's gonna sit on. I'm just doing a real quick assembly of it, and again I ended up using the better sheet metal screws to put all this together. These were actually nuts and bolts that went on there. So now you're gonna put your gable ends up. You got your gable ends assembled, go ahead and put your gable ends up. These are the screws. Sorry, it was so shaky. They're the number 8s by half-inch self-drilling or self-tapping screws. So once I got my gable ends up, then I went ahead and brought that cross beam in, set that up there. Now because the shed base was taken up by the walls, I went ahead and went inside the barn and assembled my roof panels. And again, the panels just snap together and then these little tracks run all the way around the perimeter of it, and then the little tiny screw that holds them in place. Overall, once it was completed, it was pretty good for the price and the fact that it was such a lightweight shed. But again, save your money, buy a regular arrow shed, take the time to get the proper nuts and bolts and put it in. So this is just showing the roof panels on, and then you just screw your screws up through the bottom there. And then this is just a quick video on assembling the door. The hardest part was actually the door, making sure the little supports on the inside of the door lined up with the holes on the panel of the door. And again, those panels just go together by snapping. So overall, yes, it is an easy shed, but I would just recommend going with the regular arrow shed rather than going with the Ezee shed. So we have it all together. I'm going to go ahead and throw my hinges on right here real quick. And then we're just going to go out and hang the door. And this is just putting the last, and fortunately these were at least a nut and a bolt. You know, they were smaller. Again, this is very lightweight, very, very lightweight. But overall, it's going to serve the purpose that I need it for, which is a utility shed. It's going to house my generator, and it's going to house my water filtration and my 12-volt pump for my off-grid barn. Now I'm just attaching the shed to the base. Everything's locked down in place. And then this is just a real quick look at the inside. It came together actually really well. Using the number 8 half-inch self-drilling screws provided a lot more rigidness, whatever, to it. Alright, so there's my generator backfeed to my inverter, my 12-volt pump, and my base. So it is all set. And there's my girl Stella right there by my side. Alrighty then. That is it. This is just a little sneak peek of next week. I'm going to spray the inside of it with this big box store spray foam insulation. See y'all next week for a new episode of How I Did It. Have a blessed day.